ended up being an issue. And on top of it being an issue, and Malik, I want to get your take on this. Trump, out of the blue, brings in the debt ceiling to a conversation on the government shutdown. These things are very different, and yet he invoked both together. And so it's like, okay, that's a little worrying, because what that effectively means is that Donald Trump is planning to blow up the debt. That Trump effectively said, look, I want to also raise the debt ceiling or get rid of the debt ceiling while we are dealing with this. And my first question is, why do you need to get rid of the debt ceiling, Trump? What are you going to do with the debt? And is he trying to blow up the debt? Welcome back, Malik. So give me a take on this. Why is Donald Trump invoking the debt ceiling in a government shutdown conversation? And does it give you concerns that he is going to explode the deficit, which is part of the reason why he's bringing it up? Give me your thoughts.
So I hope this is better. Apparently there is an issue with Comcast, so I had to switch to my cell phone. So hopefully I'm not breaking up now. Can you hear me okay now? Okay, perfect. Well, that's even better. So Donald Trump is full of it here. Well, I take that back. I'll say this. From what I'm hearing, people are saying that Donald Trump had wanted this part of the deal all along as far as the debt ceiling. I don't believe that, simply because Mike Johnson has been around Donald Trump far too many times now. And if that is something that Donald Trump was willing to go to bat for, this whole debt ceiling deal, then Mike Johnson, literally, because this dude is around, whether it's football games, MMA fights, Mar-a-Lago, the plane, wherever, Mike Johnson is always around. So I refuse to believe that Mike Johnson would have known that Donald Trump was serious about the debt ceiling negotiations and then just said, I ain't gonna put that in there. Because this is something that, as you talked about before, this is perfunctory. This is something that happens literally, much like the budget though, but this is something that you must do every single year. Like, we have to raise the debt ceiling. There is no way of getting around it. There is no way to lower it. You have to do it every single year. And Donald Trump knows that. Now, what people don't realize about this is that when the government shut down, because people want the government to shut down. And I know a lot of our audience, when we had the show, they were fine with the government shutting down. December 20th, 2018 is the day that Donald Trump shut the government down in 2018. It did not reopen until January 25th, 2019, because Donald Trump shut the government down because Nancy Pelosi and Democrats refused to fund his border wall funding request. So he did shut the government down right before Christmas. We got to January 19th, Donald Trump was giving a speech talking about the fact that Democrats refused to work with him. The government was still shut down at this point. The next week, January 25th, Donald Trump comes out at the White House, announces that the government has officially reopened, and that but what he didn't say is that there was no border wall funding as part of when the government opened back up. So Donald Trump did exactly what these people want Republicans to do now, and it didn't work well for Donald Trump at all. Nothing good came out of that. And so what people are willing to do, which is why another reason I will never, ever, ever, ever support a government shutdown, because it allows Congress to just get paid $174,000 a year, not even working the days that most Americans work. Because what it ends up doing, that we get back to this same spot over and over again, where members of Congress, ain't nobody talking about, well, why won't members of Congress dock their own pay during this time? You ain't go ever hear nobody. Now, you may hear one or two people talk about, let's introduce a bill to make sure that members of Congress don't get paid during the government shutdown. No, they always want to pass it along to somebody else. So what I'm not willing to do for somebody who gets paid $174,000 a year is to co-sign them. I don't care if it's for 1 day. I don't care if it's for 100 days. I don't care if it's $1 or $10,000 that people might be missing out on, especially around the holiday season, simply because Congress decided not to do its job. It ain't got nothing to do with them. Members of Congress decided to not do their job. So Donald Trump is playing that. I don't know what the angle here. He is right. I will say that on this budget, debt ceiling negotiations, because when the government reopened in that January, and I think it was a CR until like February or something like that, or March. When the government reopened, as part of those those negotiations, Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi had an agreement on the debt ceiling. The reason that no one remembers debt ceiling negotiations in 2020 as we were dealing with COVID is because in the previous year, Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi had agreed to extend the debt ceiling for an additional 2 years. That's why the fight didn't come back up until Biden got in office, because they had this agreement. So that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. So I understand on the one end why he wants it as part of this deal, because the last deal that he had worked on with Nancy Pelosi included the same thing. So there is no reason for Democrats to even be against the debt ceiling negotiations being part of the deal, because it has to be done whether it's now. Nothing's going to change about those negotiations. But I think Donald Trump throwing this monkey wrench at the last minute, right ahead of, like literally right at the last minute, and he's actually not asking for much that's different other than the individual bill. So, a standalone bill for the, farm bill, standalone bill for the Hurricane Milton. So that's what he's asking for in addition to the debt ceiling. The problem that they're having, though, isn't even Donald Trump in the debt ceiling. It is people like Chip Roy and members of the Freedom Caucus who never support raising the debt ceiling. They are saying, I cannot vote for this because of the debt ceiling, in part because of the debt ceiling that Donald Trump said he wanted. So this isn't Democrats, contrary to what they're saying. Democrats ain't doing nothing right here but sitting back watching, because there are, I think the number that I looked at, the 32 Republicans who voted for the bill on yesterday. Well, those 32 people are voting against Donald Trump, because this is Donald Trump came out and said, ha ha, we got a deal, y'all. We got a deal, y'all. Donald Trump came out and said that. 32 Republicans voted against him. To tell you, for all of those people who love to gas up Elon Musk and Elon Musk himself, why isn't Elon Musk attacking those 32 Republicans who are sticking to their guns and saying, we're not going to raise a single bit of this debt ceiling without appropriate spending cuts attached to it? That's what Chip Roy, and that's what the Freedom Caucus has been saying all along. They want corresponding spending cuts alongside any sort of increases in the debt ceiling. Well, Donald Trump is saying, I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah, just give
me Chip Roy and Republicans are doing exactly what they have been doing, but now they are on the other side of Donald Trump, and the only person who is being attacked, Chip Roy and Nancy Mace. They're not attacking any of the other Republicans who are not voting with Donald Trump on this. So all of these people who talk about Elon Musk and how this is good and how this is something that Donald Trump wants him to do. Well, if Donald Trump wants Elon Musk to be helping him out, why couldn't Elon Musk go after those 32 Republicans for voting against Donald Trump, as they did when it came to people like Joni Ernst, who was questioning Pete Hegseth?
What does this mean for the next administration? I mean, does it mean that Trump doesn't have the clout that he thinks he has in this scenario? I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is his base that is voting against him on this particular issue. Or am I wrong on this? I mean, does Trump? Oh, yeah, go for it.
So, yeah, it's his base in Congress that's doing this, which is different than the base online out there in the Elon Musk Twitter.
Yeah.
The people in Congress are doing what they've been doing, which is in fact responding to what the base, Trump's base, has been saying all along. This gets you to Trump can shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and get away with it, because these people aren't attacking Donald Trump for this. They're literally doing exactly what Republican voters have said we wanted. No increases without this. If Democrat, and that's something I'm glad I came back because I wanted to mention this at first, Jamal, and we talked about it on the show. Can you imagine what Republicans would be saying? What they did say, but what Republicans would be saying if George Soros was parading around the country with Joe Biden, if George Soros was wherever Joe Biden was, George Soros was there. If George Soros was talking about primarying members of the Democratic Party who did not adhere to the president's agenda, if George Soros was attending meetings with world leaders alongside Joe Biden, can you imagine what Republicans would be saying?
They will be strapping bombs to themselves, running into Congress. Like they would be losing their minds if that was the case.
Yes. And so now we have we have our own billionaire. But what we say, and this is the mentality, Donald Trump can do whatever he wants to do. This is okay because Elon Musk is supporting the right thing. That's why it's okay. George Soros is the woke one. So he's fighting the wrong fight. So it's wrong for a billionaire to insert himself in politics, getting DAs hired to, carry out a specific agenda across. That's wrong. It's not wrong for Elon Musk because Elon Musk, he supports Donald Trump. And as people suggest, he's doing the things that Donald Trump wants him to do. JD Vance can do the things that Donald Trump wants him to do. He doesn't need, and I want people to understand this, he don't need Elon Musk to be his spokesperson. We have so many people in the Republican Party who are good at this. And the fact that at such a crucial moment, Elon Musk was willing to push out misinformation about something as serious as this, I more so now like Vivek Ramaswamy in this moment, because at least he seems more serious. He seems more serious about it. And the problem with Elon Musk is that it doesn't seem genuine. Elon Musk, this seems like when a guy goes through a midlife crisis and buys a Corvette, or a rich person says, you know what, I'm gonna buy $100 million yacht. This, to me, this is what it seems like for Elon Musk. He's not vested in the Republican Party. He's not even vested in MAGA. He's vested in what his access to power gives him that will benefit his bottom line. Because I can assure you of this, Elon Musk is going to be looking at all of these regulations that they're going to cut back on. Be rest assured, those regulations are going to help Elon Musk remain rich. This isn't just about MAGA and populism even. This is about the access that Elon Musk has, and his access is now the incoming president of the United States. Vivek Ramaswamy is much more sincere about this than Elon Musk is. I think Elon Musk exposed his hand.
Man, 1,000% agree. Somebody in the audience says, like, counter this guy, Jamal. I agree with this guy. I mean, I don't want a billionaire running around with the I don't believe for a moment. I think Elon Musk has a dog in this hunt, in the sense of I could be richer. I can get regulations removed. I can influence the president of the United States. Hell, I can kill bills now. Like, this is effectively what he did. I killed the bill using misinformation to do so. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly on this. I don't think for a moment that Elon Musk is vested. I mean, the guy was a Democrat up until this point. Until the censorship thing came up. So was RFK Jr., so was Tulsi Gabbard. All of these people were Democrats. No, I agree with you on this. I guess and I also agree with you on this notion about clout and whether or not, like, he's a clout chaser. He's a billionaire that just so happens to get it in with the president of the United States that now can affect policy on a nationwide level, even working in this kind of organization. What is it? DOGE.
The Department of Government Efficiency is a nothing burger. I want people to understand what the Department of Efficiency will be able to do. Presidents create so many commissions. These commissions, you are unpaid, you don't have a staff, there is no constitutional authority, meaning where you can do anything other than issue a report. When Donald Trump had the Commission on Black Men and Boys, They came out with a report. It wasn't anything that they could sign into law. So DOGE is going to issue out, and I haven't figured this part out, if they're going to roll out just a weekly or monthly or so roll out with suggestions on what can be, removed from government, or is it really going to be in 2026, in June of 2026, at the end of their term, because it's only for a year and a half. I don't know at what point will it be rolling recommendations, or will it just happen at the end? Either way, let's say it's a rolling recommendation or it happens at the end. Just from a process point of view, if you want to do something like defund an agency, that's something Congress has to approve. Congress will never, and you will need 60 senators in order to do that. Congress will never defund an agency, which is why Donald Trump appointed somebody to be his Department of Education secretary, because he realized the Department of Education ain't going nowhere. A lot of the people who support these, let's get of this, it's not going to happen. So Congress has to approve a lot of this stuff that they're going to want to do. Now, they can do stuff like regulations. So you don't need congressional approval to change things like regulations, which is why you hear Elon Musk talk a lot about regulations, because the only thing that you need to do is to issue a notice of rulemaking change. That can take anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half to change a single rule. So Doge, they will make a lot of recommendations. They will never get to the $2 million mark. I will never consider them really serious unless you're talking about Social Security, Medicare, which is what they said they're not going to touch, or if you're talking about the $800 billion that we give to the Department of Defense, Pentagon, every single year, and they can't even pass an audit. So unless they're going to be kind of tackling those big ticket items, because talking about federal workers, and another thing, talking about those federal workers, the report that came out, I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, the report came out, 6% of federal workers are in office full time, 60% are. Well, I did a little podcast on that. And when you go and look, the top line, when you click on the article that's cited in the Joni Ernst report about these federal government workers at home, you go to the top of that report, it shows that the report has been updated to reflect the fact that the survey was a non-scientific survey of self-selected and self-identified government workers.
Are you serious?
I encourage you. I encourage you guys. This is called the Fed Ed Weekly or something. I'm not making this up. It literally says at the top, the editor's note at the top, that it was a non-scientific survey. So all of these people are
just made it up. They just made it up. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, they just wanted the headline. It wasn't like, I didn't cover that story, but I remember seeing it floating around in the background. I got to be honest, I tend to be less reactive with that stuff, because I know oftentimes either it's not true or it's trying to insinuate something else. So it's kind of like, okay, that's interesting. You just move on. I didn't necessarily dig into it. It sounded dodgy to me, just because it was so low. Like 6% is like, okay, that don't sound right. That's pretty low. I mean, we wouldn't even have anybody in our offices if that was the case. Good to know. Man, thank you for this, Melik. I great rundown. You had the audience agreeing with you on this one. They was like, facts, Melik, facts.
So I'm gonna come. I need to check. I don't want to get out ahead of myself here, but I don't think because I feel like I need to make up some for all of this wireless internet coming in and out. But I'll text you, because I want to. If you haven't already scheduled for Monday, I'll come back. I'll come back Monday morning. But I'll text you to see if I have a conflict. I can't remember if I do, though.
I will pencil you in, man. Thank you for this, man.
Of course.
Me, man. Always appreciate it. And I agree with you. The guy was like, counter this guy. It's like, counter what? He's right. He's right. He's absolutely right. Look, man, if George Soros, and that's a great example, if George Soros was running around arm in arm with Joe Biden, Republicans would have lost their minds. They would have lost their minds. but he's Elon. It's their guy, and they're okay with their guy
because of Trump.
Because of Trump. Melik Abdul, political analyst, writer, Republican strategist with over 15 years of public and private sector experience, and my previous co-host. Thank you, my man.
I'll see you next week, man.
All right, I'll see you then. Have a good one.
Okay.